What's up guys, in this video I'm going to bring you another deck profile video. This one's going to be on Delphox, Magnezone, and Miltank. Now I'm basically just going to be taking you through this deck, all the Pokemon trainers and energy that make this deck very competitive in the right situations. Now this deck is a sub-tier 1 deck, but I think it's very good, especially with the meta shift going towards a lot of these stage 1 type decks like Pyroar and Raichu. I think it's very good against those type of decks, as well as a very good matchup against your bigger EX Pokemon such as Yveltal and Mewtwo and things like that. So first we're going to look at Delphox. Now Delphox has been previously used in things like Emboar and Rayquaza EX as draw support, as well as a good attacker to get around things like Sigilyph and Suicune with Safeguard ability. Now its ability is very, very good. We've seen it on cards printed before, like Magnezone Prime from Heart Gold Soul Silver, and it was used a lot then. So it's still very, very good now. It is Mystical Fire. Once per turn, you can draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. Now this is very, very good at any point in the game, just to get you a supporter or to help your setup, or at the end of the game, if you end your opponent and yourself down to 1 or 2 cards, you can disrupt them without disrupting you. Because if you end yourself down to 2 cards, shuffle and draw 2, and then draw 4 more, it's basically the same thing as getting an N for 6. So you can basically get an N for 6 cards at any point in the game, which is extremely good. So that's Delphox, and like I said, its attack's not too shabby either. Blaze Ball, when completely powered up, will do 110 damage or 130 with a Muscle Band. Now we're not going to be focusing too much on one-hit knockouts with Delphox, just because it requires a lot of resources, and it's not something we necessarily want to be doing every single turn, just because it is a stage 2, so even with Delphox and Magnezone, it can still be a bit difficult to get fully powered up stage 2 Pokemon every single turn to try and knock out your opponent's Pokemon. So we have Delphox, and we're going to be pairing it with Magnezone. Now Magnezone has the ability Dual Brains, which lets you play 2 supporter cards, which is very, very good. It just lets you use things like Blacksmith, Iris even, and Lysander, a lot of these newer cards that are kind of reprints of older cards just in the form of supporters, which, they're good, but by using these cards, you're wasting your supporter for the turn. So with Magnezone, we can use, Blacksmith or Lysander, just setting up, or yourself with energy, or setting up your opponent for a knockout, and continue to use our normal supporter cards. So it's just a very, very good card to have in this deck. And they both feed off each other very well. Once you get one out, you're pretty much going to get the other one out the same turn, if not the next. So they're both just very good cards. And Magnezone lets you use, Blacksmith to power up Delphox without, hampering your setup. If you could only use Blacksmith and you had to wait next turn to use an N or something, then Delphox would not be as good. But combined together, they're very good. Now, like I said previously, we're not going to be focusing on one-hit knockouts so much, because a one-hit knockout with Delphox would require 5 or 6 energy, which is like half of our energy for the game. It's more than half. We're only using 10 fire energy, so we're combining this with Miltank. Miltank is just a very good card in any stage 2 deck. We can use Powerful Friends for 80 or 100 damage with a Muscle Band, and this is just very good for setting up knockouts on our opponent, or even taking knockouts. If you use 2 Miltank and knock out a big EX, you can be setting up your Delphox for one-hit knockouts on your opponent's EX Pokemon. So just very good in this deck, Miltank. And we also have Reshiram, which is just very, very good in this deck, just because a lot of the times you can promote it against things like Mewtwo and Yveltal that get a lot of extra damage based on the amount of energy you have attached to your Pokemon. So you can send it up there, and it will take them a lot more energy to knock it out in one hit. Or if they don't, you can just Blacksmith onto it and Outrage and just return the damage they did plus 20 more, and 20 more if you even add a Muscle Band. So it's very, very good in this deck. And I've tried using things like Charizard EX and Raichu with Energy Switch and Pyroar, but I believe this Pokemon line is the best and the most competitive. I've been playing a lot of online matches and tournaments and things like that with this, so I think it's very good. And it's a good meta call, just because a lot of Virizion Genesect decks, they're still pretty strong despite Pyroar being around, and against Pyroar it's basically an auto win. I mean, Pyroar just doesn't have the damage output to keep up with this, and the only basics we have are Miltank and Reshiram, and we can, rely on Delphox for that. So it's just a good meta call, in my opinion, to play this. But now we're going to be looking at the trainers. We're running one dowsing machine just because it's probably the best A spec. We're running two fiery torch, just to help us get some fire energy in the discard to use with blacksmith. It also helps us in the beginning of the game just to get more cards and to help us get out our stage 2s as early as possible. We have two level ball, just helps us get out Fennekin, Braxian, and Magnemite, and just helps us get out our setup faster. Palped is just a very good card in this matchup, just because we're using a lot of things like Iris, Lysander, and even Blacksmith, and it helps us get those back and use them again, without having to commit to another copy of them. It's just very versatile in this game. We're using 4 rare candy just because we have a lot of stage 2s we got to get out as fast as possible. 1 startling megaphone just because Garbodor is actually not the worst matchup for this deck. It's really not too bad because once you startling megaphone, you can use all your abilities again and use Lysander, Catcher out the Garbodor, and usually once you take out one Garbodor, they're usually not going to have too many more in store for you. So it's just a good card to have, pretty much needed in every deck in my opinion. We also have 1 Super Rod, just a good card to have just to get back things like Miltank or Delphox, mainly what I get with it. We're running 2 Switch because a lot of the times our opponent will try and Catcher Stall Magnezone because it has a 3 retreat cost. So 2 Switch I think is necessary in this matchup. You could probably use an Escape Rope or 2 Escape Rope and whatever you want to use for your switching cards, but I think just 2 Switch gets the job done. Again, you could use things like Escape Rope or Keldeo EX or anything like that, but I think Switch is probably just the best. We also have 3 Ultra Ball, just very good to get out our Pokemon, whatever you need. You can Skyla for a rare candy, an Ultra Ball, and get out a Magnezone or a Delphox, and that'll help us get the other one out even faster. For our supporters, we're running 2 Blacksmith, just good for energy acceleration. We're running 1 Colress, just good late game draw supporter. I actually don't use Colress that much because I like to end myself down to 1 or 2 cards and then just use Mystical Fire. I don't like to draw too many cards just because with using all these abilities and supporters, you are at risk at decking yourself out if you're not careful. So I run 1 Colress. I run 1 Iris because it's good in this matchup just because at the end of the game you can use it to help your Delphox get a 1-hit knockout. If your opponent's taking 3 or 4 prizes, that's 1 or 2 less energy you need to take a knockout on an opponent's Pokemon, which is pretty big in my opinion. We're running 1 Lysander. I would like to run 2, but I'm not really sure what to get rid of for it. I think I might drop a Fiery Torch for it, but either way, with Dowsing Machine and Palped, we usually don't need any more Lysander than just 1 copy. We have 4 N just to help us get out our stuff and just for disruption on our opponent. We have Professor Juniper. We're running 2 of these because a lot of these cards we really need to stay competitive in all matchups. A lot of these cards are very, very needed to just to function basically. So we're running 2 Juniper again just because we don't like to get rid of our stuff and because we have so many N that we're going to be playing constantly that we don't really need to draw any more cards than 6, I think, because we can always play them down and use Mystical Fire to get more. So that's just my opinion on using Juniper. We also run 3 Skyla, probably the best supporter in this type of deck, just because you can Skyla and then get out, something like a Blacksmith or an Iris or a Lysander and use it the same turn with Magnezone, so that's always good. And we're also running 4 Muscle Band. Sorry, my game's a little bit laggy right now. I'm not really sure why, but we're running 4 Muscle Band, just adds 20 damage, just very good. And for our energy, we're running 10 Fire Energy. I think this is just the best number of energy, anymore, and we're starting to take out things we need to function. So this is the deck revolving around Delphox, Magnezone, and Miltank. In my opinion, this is probably the best variant of this deck. You can use things like Pyroar or Charizard EX in it, but I think just with these cards, I think it is the most competitive. I've tested a lot online and in tournaments and stuff, and I think this is just the best. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see a matchup with it that I can commentate later on, please leave a like and subscribe to see that. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.